Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Football Diary podcast. It's FA Cup third round weekend, and Manchester United are through to the fourth round after a thrilling, down to 10 men, gritty win against Arsenal on penalties at the Emirates. Could not have asked for more. That is clearly where we are starting the podcast this week. I'm with Dave, funnily enough, so expect a heavily biased take on this. Just a disclaimer, but how are you feeling, Dave? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Over the moon after that result. I think we can both say it was fully expected, easy, straightforward win.
It's never straightforward though, is it? Going down to 10 men as well, you just never know, do you? But what a performance from them. We have to also talk about the managerial changes in the Premier League. Two more departures. Julian Lopetegui out for Graham Potter at West Ham, and Sean Dyche out at Everton for the return of David Moyes, the Moyes sire. We're definitely talking about that too, as well as the highlights of the FA Cup third round too. Some of the little things you might not have missed or might have seen, we'll see. But let's start with United, Dave, at the Emirates, and a performance that we needed, first of all. After the Liverpool game, I think I was crying out for them just to fight for everything in this game. Another tough away game against the title contender, wasn't it, really? And wow, we stood up in the second half, despite the first half being a bit of a difficult watch, it's fair to say. It exploded to life in the second half. A red card for United when we were 1-0 up as well. And you started thinking this isn't going our way, especially after the way the referee was performing in the game too. It was a shocking refereeing performance. But we persisted and we got the result. Absolutely thrilled, mate. How about you?
Yeah, it was a difficult watch at times, wasn't it? And it's really, I think you have a bit of taste because it's difficult not to become frustrated by the officials. It's not something you want to speak about all the time. But I think not just for the fans, but the players. And you could feel the frustration from the players on the pitch. I think probably from both sides at the time that it was just some mind-numbing decisions from the referee that did have an impact on the flow of the game. It was very stop-start. It was some of them were very soft. And I think the United players especially have lost their heads at times. And I think that's something probably Amorim will be speaking to them about is you can't have any control of the referee's performance. You've got to control the game yourselves. And honestly, what a game! It had a bit of everything, really, didn't it?
Yeah, even the first half as well. When on our goal, I think we played really well on the counter too. And Garnacho receiving the ball from a mistake as well, it has to be said. But I thought he carried the ball really well into the Arsenal half, found Bruno Fernandes with a pass, bobbled slightly. But the way Fernandes took that goal for the opener, such skill on the shot, the way he shaped to shoot and kept the ball down, because it could have, bobbled and gone anywhere. But he looked so under control, didn't he, taking that shot? And what a finish, and what a deserved lead as well at that point.
Yeah, I thought the goal, it was a little bit out of the blue because I don't think we threatened massively too much, to be honest. Especially
we weren't threatened too much either, though. I don't think they had too many clear-cut chances.
No, not until we went the man down, I think. I thought Bruno did so well to keep that down because that was actually very similar to the kind of pass that Maguire received, the final chance in the week before against Liverpool, and obviously blazed it straight over the bar. So I think just that the technique and the finish was absolutely out of this world, and the keeper had any chance at all. And I was surprised because Bruno's capable of doing that. I think you saw him, especially in his first couple of years at United. Some of the finishes, some of the goals that he scored were out of this world. I think he's lost that a little bit, especially over this last 18 months. But I think every now and then we're reminded of what he is capable of.
100%. Well, there's a few players that played out of their skins in this game, and we'll talk about a few of them as we go through the conversation. But we have to start really the agenda with the goalkeeper, because I'm not going to lie here, guys. Dave was quoted as saying this goalkeeper is crap, or words to that effect, after the first half. So the way the tables turned and the way Bayindir put in such a great performance to more than redeem himself and pretty much win us the game with the penalty shootout too. Some amazing saves and obviously a penalty save from Odegaard within the 90 minutes. I've never seen a performance like that from any player who's suddenly had like a really bad game, suddenly turn it around to be the hero. But he deserved that, really, didn't he? What a performance from him.
Yeah, there was a real mixture. I think, the heat of the moment gets the best of us at times. And I think the frustrations are just boiling over when, obviously, we just had that red card and we pretty much concede immediately after. I think you probably have to say you probably will feel he should have done better and probably just caught the ball. Like, there was no need to punch it there. It was within reach, and It's just unfortunate that it fell to Saliba, and a very lucky deflection into the goal. But I think other than that, I thought he made some great stops. I think the Declan Rice save, both penalties actually, but particularly, I'll probably say the Havertz one was better because it's right in the corner, and you see that slow motion angle of him actually. It's literally fingertips. It's almost, he makes a save and it's kind of looks like it's still creeping in, and then his fingertips just drag it around the post, like it's agonisingly.
It's a full stretch though as well.
Yeah.
It's not like he caught him off guard. He read the penalty so well.
He's got such I think he's got such good reflexes. I think you can see that. And how quickly he gets to the ground. I was quite impressed by that in a number of moments. We've seen already this season, especially the game, the Carabao Cup game against Tottenham, obviously made a couple of errors in that game, and that cost us. It was a similar sort of thing, claiming a ball from a set piece, and happened again this game. But hopefully that will do him the world of good. The confidence that should be flowing through him right now.
There's a couple of players that have had a confidence boost, I think, from this result. Matthijs de Ligt as well. I thought he needed that after the game against Liverpool. I thought he was probably the weakest player on the pitch, probably culpable for their goals too, but was immense in this game. I think the back three really suits him. It really suits Maguire too. I thought Maguire was colossal, absolutely immense player. Threw his body in front of stuff, read the game really well. And I feel like Maguire is better suited to this three because there's less pressure on him to do a job that he doesn't normally do as a defender. And actually more emphasis on him just being a defender and actually being in the right place at the right time. And I thought he did that so many occasions today.
Yeah, Maguire, I think he got a real good round of applause actually for when he came off the pitch, didn't he? So that was nice to see, and looked like he might have had potential injury. Hopefully nothing serious, but he's pretty much fulfilled that redemption arc a number of times now, hasn't he? It seems like he's going through that quite a lot, actually, particularly over the last few years. But yeah, de Ligt, I thought, was imperious. That clearance, I think, they made on the line against Trossard, where it looked like it was a certain goal. I don't know how he managed to clear that over the bar, but somehow managed to clear it. Yeah, there was, I think, one thing that actually really stood out to me, and probably since Amram's come in, is that everybody who's come on, if those three subs, I thought Malacia, who I think has struggled a little bit since he's come back from injury. Toby Collier, thought was,
great
so good. I thought the energy that he brought a lot of simple play, but productive. Quick 1-2s, just looked really calm and composed. Xerxes, for a lot, I think is an enigma, and a lot of people still don't know what to make of him, whether he could be a success at United or not. And there's obviously still a bit of confusion around his future. But I thought he played really well as well at times. And I think the hold-up play definitely improved when he came on. I think Højlund could definitely learn something from Xerxes, because I think his hold-up play is a lot better. His control of the ball, I think he's managed. You can see that for a guy with his frame, he's actually surprisingly quite agile at times in his way it can turn. So, yeah, really promising. And it would have been nice to see us a bit more, attack a little bit more at times. I think there were moments where it were quite promising. It was just our final pass. Some transitions were spoiled by a little bit of complacency. But on the whole, I don't think you can really complain with the situation that we're in. And I think, was it just before the 60th minute? So we played for an hour of football with a man down, and we defended quite comfortably at times, if I'm being honest.
I think that's the thing. It's the discipline it takes mentally to stay in focus and staying on your job to make sure that Arsenal don't find that gap in the defence. And I think every player to a man did that really well. But the counter as well stayed super positive. We weren't just booting it clear. We were looking for a player. And I think Xerxes was usually that player, wasn't it? That outlet when there were very few people going forward. And I said on Blue Sky as well that the substitutions from Amorim was so different to anything Ten Hag would have done in this situation. And yeah, Collie was obviously a more defensive option, but he was getting forward on the counter. Xerxes was getting forward on the counter. Ahmad as well. These are all players that wanted to get forward on the counter. And that's why we won the game, I think. We were just so much more positive than I think Arsenal could really deal with. So great to see, and a great mentality shift for United. And a couple of games in a row now, it feels like we're actually, I don't know, embedding different culture and philosophy and mentality into the team, doesn't it? And that's the best thing.
Yeah, particularly the last couple of games, the game against Liverpool, this game against Arsenal. I'd say even the other week against Arsenal where we lost 2-0, and let's be honest, I think they're probably the better team on the day and deserve to win. But we actually look really well structured, and we're difficult to play against at the minute. You can say that, and particularly in the big fixtures against the big teams, particularly over the last couple of years, we had an awful record, and it feels like the tide's starting to turn. It's definitely we look like more of a unit. We're carrying a bit of threat on the counter, although I think, like we already know that we probably need a couple of bodies in attack just to make us a little bit more potent, because I think we struggle a little bit with that creativity at times, especially when Ahmad's not on the pitch, and you could see that like when he wasn't on the pitch.
You say we struggled for creativity there, but I think Arsenal were worse than us in some ways. Every time they got the ball, they seemed bereft of ideas without, obviously Saka in the team. And we said that might be a struggle for them. But even with Odegaard there, they didn't seem to know how to find a way to get through the defence or to score. They seemed a little bit rattled. They were playing for free kicks constantly, and I'm really surprised by that. And corners as well. The desperation to get a set piece and then the time they took on set pieces is so boring to watch, isn't it? I think as an opposition team, definitely, because it's just frustrating. But as a neutral, you want to see a team like Arsenal take the initiative when they've got an advantage of men, and they didn't do that at all. They didn't seem to be more attack-minded, and when they were, Havertz was just so poor in front of goal, wasn't he? And yeah, it's worrying for Arsenal, especially when they're still fighting on all fronts, to be out of one competition and be on the ropes for kind of all the rest, really, isn't it?
Well, arguably could be out of two. Obviously, the fixture against Newcastle didn't go to plan. But yeah, I agree. I think it's frustrating to watch, and it's really tedious. Obviously, I've complained to you about how long it was taking them to take corners, free kicks. Oh, it's just... I don't understand how they can't be cautioned for it, because it's surely it's the delay in play from happening. It's the amount of time that they take on it. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, it just makes the game a bit of a chore to watch at times. I feel.
Well, I
agree with you. I think there was a lack of patience. I think in and around the box. I think they were over. I think they were a little bit too hasty to cross the ball into the box at times, when I just don't think the option was there. It was quite obvious that United were quite comfortable, I think. And De Ligt and Maguire just, cope with everything they threw at us. So yeah, it'll probably be a little bit of a concern to Arteta, and whether they can get somebody in. Obviously, Nwaneri wasn't available for this game, but if that's the answer to the absence of Saka, then I think that's quite concerning for me. That they've got to get another forward in, I think.
Yeah, strength in depth is poor. And I think you were saying in our chat, weren't you, about Raheem Sterling's contribution when he came on? I thought it was completely negative and easily managed, but it seemed like elsewhere they were talking about him as having an impact. I don't think that was the case at all.
I don't know if that's just like, for me, that's just... I think there's a bit of confusion there. Like, he always looks shot because that's the style of player that he has. He's got that burst of pace. He's got that burst of acceleration over 5 to 10 yards. He's always going to have that about him. But for me, he's always like that end product at times. He's hesitant in his decision making, slows things down. He ruined quite a few attacks for Arsenal. I personally didn't see it. I thought they were just thought they were a little bit off with the comments there, but. Again, like, he's not had the minutes that he probably thought he was going to get Sterling. So what does Mikel Arteta make of him if that's the case? Like, he can't be overly confident in what he can offer.
No. Well, a lot to consider for Arsenal and Arteta, I think, having exited a competition they could have won, really, which is the frustrating thing. And in the fashion they did against United, they'll be frustrated too. But United to win is a huge boost for them, and I guess Amarim's philosophy's had a bit of a painful spell, hasn't it? But it feels like it's becoming more positive now, and the team's mentality is changing. So yeah, that seems to be, although not the most ideal time to change a coach, it seems like it was necessary for United, and it's actually coming a bit better now. So I hesitate to get too positive. Teams changing their managers, Dave, let's speak of those, because there's been a couple in the week since we last spoke. The first one seemed quite obvious, and that was Sean Dyche. I feel like that decision was made quite early as well, to exit Everton. Before the cup game as well. I think the timing was odd, but I think they were waiting to get the right manager in place first and to get the Moyes deal done. I'm sure they were after Potter for a while, who obviously went to West Ham in the end. That never panned out. But yeah, Dyche out and Moyes back in at Everton. Initial thoughts?
Well, I don't know. It's a difficult one to analyse, I think, really, because especially with the way the club is at the moment, I think he's going to be under pressure from the off. Moyes, really. Yeah. Not just with a change in style of play. I think you look at obviously what West Ham fans were saying about Moyes' football. They wanted a change in style of play, and that didn't go entirely to plan with Lopetegui. But there were a lot of cries out for his dismissal.
Yeah.
If Everton fans are looking for him to come in and immediately change, pretty much everything on the pitch at the moment, just the change, obviously, the result gets more results, get more wins. Might be able to do it. Obviously, he's quite a pragmatic manager. I think you look at his time at Everton before, it could go either way. I really feel I hope it doesn't get ugly, because it would be an awful way for him to go after. You look at the legacy that he's got there.
Yeah, that's the danger, isn't it?
And we've seen how it's happened before. Likes of Liverpool, Kenny Dalglish.
I think it's a bit different to that scenario.
Alan Shearer at Newcastle.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. He's got such a positive legacy at Everton, and I think a lot of the fans are really rose-tinted and nostalgic about this move in particular, because the era under Moyes' first time round included players like Tim Cahill, Stephen Pienaar, Seamus Coleman at his best, Leighton Baines, Tim Howard. It was a really good team, wasn't it? A really competitive team that fought for European football. And this is not that team. It's quite away from it. But I think Moyes has been waiting for the right job, and he's bided his time. I think he's turned down quite a few offers. I think this is the only one that he would have taken that is a relegation battle. Although it's not deep in relegation trouble yet, I think it's the only one he would have looked at. So the romance is there, I think, for him and for the fans. I think that's the danger for me, that there's a complacency there from the leadership, the hierarchy, of being seduced by that positive impact he might have initially, maybe, or the fans being like, yes, let's get back on board with the way we used to be, because it's not going to be like that. And I think that's deluded to think that it's going to change anything in an instant as well. I think it'll be a tough slog for them still initially.
I think it's I think if you look at it as a long-term thing, I can't see him being there probably over 5 years, if I'm honest. I know obviously you say that a lot about a lot of managers now. It's very much quite short term for jobs, particularly in the Premier League now. I think as there's so much pressure on results, and I just feel as though for him to just keep, I think, Everton afloat, keep them out of the relegation zone, it's going to take a lot, because I just think the personnel in that squad is just, frankly, is missing. It's not good enough. But for him to get something more out of those players, I think that's the main thing, really, isn't it? I think that's what what a lot of Everton fans want, is the feel that probably Dyche wasn't getting the best out of that set of players. And you can see it in the reaction from the team, and think you'll be able to see when he does come in and puts his print on this team. It'd be fascinating to see the reaction from the players, because is this all that the Everton squad have got to offer? Is this the very best? Because that is worrying if that's the case.
I think the only thing positive to say as a next manager of Everton FC is to say that Dyche couldn't have been more negative or pragmatic than anyone else. So Moyes coming in, at least you're going to get a level up from that. And that's saying something for David Moyes, because he's normally considered the most pragmatic manager in the Premier League, or somebody that's averse to taking risks. But I think he will be more likely to take risks than Dyche ever was. And I think that's all Everton fans are asking for. Just try a bit harder, try and be a bit more adventurous. So, yeah, there's some good attacking players in that team. I think Moyes will use that and embrace that. And I think that's the thing. You just want to see more fight, more goals, and a tighter defence. I definitely think you'll get a tighter defence under David Moyes. But the attack is another question, because they've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Beto up front. And at the minute, they're not producing anything. So I do think it's the right decision to change from Dyche, but to go to Moyes, I'm not so sure. Jury's still out, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and like you say, I think they've struggled, haven't they, in their attacking play, particularly from open play. I think they've pretty much, kind of anonymous at times in games. And
yeah,
And I just think particularly the next few games, it'll be interesting to see how they go. But if it wasn't Everton, do you think he'd be taking this job? I couldn't see him
No,
any other
no,
club at the bottom of the league in the position that they're in.
no, because he's been there too many times before, and I think he felt like he was pulling away from that with West Ham and being tired with that brush. I think now he's back to that kind of image again now, isn't he? Fighting fires, which is annoying for him. But let's talk about West Ham as well. They've also changed their manager. Julio Lopetegui out. It's been a short stint for him, hasn't it? But they spent a lot of money trying to play his vision with his players. Hasn't worked out. Super talented team, West Ham. I kind of feel like Graham Potter will look at that team and rub his hands with glee, don't you? Because it's an upgrade from Brighton in terms of the kind of calibre of player he had there. Surely he can make something good out of them, you'd imagine.
I thought you could see signs of it in this game, to be honest, at times. I thought that structure was a lot better drilled, I think, in terms of the defensive transitions. I think they were a little bit more careful in terms of getting it forward. They were, particularly for Villa's goals, they were losing the ball more in midfield than it was playing out from the back. So I think there's definitely been instructions there and probably a bit of evaluation there from Potter on where their shortcomings are, particularly in that defence and what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. And I think that particularly the first half, I think there were quite a few positives there. I think Villa did struggle. I think they were well off the pace, particularly the first 45. But I think some of the attacking phases of play from West Ham, they gave Villa some warnings before Paquetá went and scored, really well worked goal. There was that searing shot from the edge of the box that literally just went wide a few moments before the goal. But I thought they worked it really well. I thought Somerville looked really bright on that side, and obviously we know what Paquetá is capable of. And I think you look at some of the players that they've got, and we were mentioning it, weren't we, when the game was on? Like, they've got the foundations of a really, really solid team. And you can see the case for this West Ham team. They should be doing a lot more and a lot better than what they were. Should be shipping as many goals as they have, because they've actually got some really good defensive players in there. So they've made it difficult for them. And to be honest, I thought it was a solid start. I think there were plenty of signs there for West Ham fans to be quite positive with.
Agreed.
And they were unfortunate. On another day, they probably could have. They were a little bit more clinical, I think, with the opportunities they probably had. They
were lucky with Fulkrug going off after like 15 minutes, weren't they? And obviously he'd started to score a couple of goals recently. So yeah, that's always a challenge, isn't it? But you're right, they've got some real great attacking talent. Kudus and Somerville. Bowen will be coming back at some point. So I think that talent's been wasted to a degree by Lopetegui, hasn't it? So I think we'll see an upturn in West Ham's fortunes. But unlucky here, losing 2-1 away to Aston Villa. Aston Villa, though, great fight back from them with half an hour still to play. They didn't knock in it at one point, and they looked like they weren't building ahead of steam, but they broke the deadlock and kind of ran away with it in the end, and were kind of, I guess, lucky to get the first goal. Like Onana's goal shouldn't have really been a corner, should it?
No.
But you could argue that they had one denied earlier in the game or something like that, I think it was. But I think Villa good for the win, and they'll be looking at the FA Cup in some ways as a competition they could go far in.
Oh, definitely, because they've been terrible. They've got a terrible record in the FA Cup the last few years.
Yeah, the early rounds as well.
I'm sure Miles would love me saying that, but I think it's a good opportunity for them to go far. I think the last time they went far in a League Cup, a cup run, was it League Cup final against United, 2011?
My Villa history is terrible, Dave. I have no idea, but they're not a prolific cup team at all.
No.
So they needed to get that monkey off their back to a degree. And against West Ham, this was a difficult game. Like against an obvious new manager bounce within the first 10 minutes. They did well to fight back into it, and I thought their persistence paid off.
I thought
Anada's goal deserved, I think. Still, it was not against the run of play at that point. And Rodgers 5 minutes later to finish it off was a great goal too. So I think fair play to them.
Yeah, I think there's some real positives in some of the players that came on. I thought Jacob Ramsey, that's probably as bright as I've seen him for a while. Actually, he's been a little bit slow when that injury that he did have. I think he's been a little bit slow coming back and showing his worth. But yeah, I thought he was electric at times, and it was a good turnaround from them. I think Emery will be really pleased with it.
Yeah, and slightly relieved as well. Now there's so much football in the FA Cup third round that we haven't obviously seen every single game, but there's a few points that stood out to me and probably to you as well. I think all eyes were on Tamworth, weren't they? In their game against Tottenham at home as well, which was it's always a surreal sight when you see an FA Cup third round game on telly, and it's these small stadiums and you can see buildings in the background and it's an artificial pitch in this case. Yeah, it was a bit of a culture shock for Spurs, and I think they were really rattled by the atmosphere and the opposition for a while, and it went the full 90 minutes still level. And I think that's an absolutely unreal testament to Tamworth's setup. They played superbly. Every player played out of their skin. Should have won it at the death as well. So yeah, just a shout out to Tamworth first of all, Dave. How much did you see of their performance? What did you make of it?
To be honest, I thought they did so well to contain Tottenham for that long, and to say contain, I think that's being a little bit harsh. And I thought they were full worth for the 90 minutes. They definitely deserved something. It's just such a shame that the whole, it's changed, hasn't it, now with not having the replays, because it could have done so much for the club.
Agreed. But I don't think replays are still necessary as long as you don't have extra time. I feel like extra time, and I said this on Blue Sky, just makes it survival of the fittest. And if you fought for 90 minutes and stayed strong and mentally focused, another half an hour is just energy sapping at that level. So I think I already knew as soon as it went to extra time they were probably going to lose, which is such a shame. If it had gone straight to penalties, I feel like that's what the FA should do for the FA Cup now. If you're going to save players' exhaustion, extra time is doing nobody any favours. United and Arsenal will be shattered, I think, for their next games. But yeah, Tamworth, I think, could have won it if it had gone straight to penalties.
Yeah, you mentioned about fitness levels there. A lot of these guys will have full-time jobs alongside, the semi-professional level. So I think you have to give a massive credit, I think, to the way how far they've got. Obviously, beat Burton Albion in the previous round, didn't they?
Yeah.
A little bit surreal seeing, I think, some of those players on the pitch. I think, obviously, we'll recognise Tom McGlinch, who used to play for Colville Town, Colville legend. So it was always nice kind of seeing players that you recognise from a local point of view. But yeah, obviously it would have been a lovely story for them to pull off the remarkable, but it wasn't meant to be. And
Tottenham scoring three in extra time.
Tottenham did show the quality in the end. Obviously, they took the goals really well and obviously brought the big guns on. And
Kulusevski in particular, brilliant.
He's their best player, isn't he? He's their best player by an absolute mile.
Yeah, consistent. Him and Johnson, I think, Brennan Johnson are just the two that you can almost always rely on. But yeah, they'll be concerned by having to have waited so long to get the win, definitely. But credit to Tamworth. I think also great to see another fixture, Dave. Nottingham Forest winning 2-0 against Luton at home. But I think this is big for the return of Danilo. He had a great reception on his return, didn't he? It'd be nice to see him coming back into a team that's doing so well as well.
Yeah, we've mentioned Forest's sort of options that they've got and their strength in depth now. All of a sudden, they've got these players coming back. It's only going to make them better and more of a force going forward. And I think hopefully we can see more of him in the team and what he's got to offer Nuno's unit, because I think what they've done so far this season is like nothing short of extraordinary, and I don't think anyone could have anticipated just what they've been capable of.
Well, the beauty of it is they don't have to rush him in either. Eased him in with 5 minutes here of game time, and they don't need to play him from the start very soon. Like, they can definitely ease him into it because the team is doing so well. So great for Forest.
I think they've got to be careful with him because this kind of player that he is, he's very combative. I think he's quite aggressive in the challenge, and he's very much an all-round sort of midfielder. And I feel like he'll give them a lot. I think he'll combine really well with some of the players they've got in that midfield. What a turnaround at Forest.
I know. Well, moving on to another result as well that we were fingers crossed hoping for a big upset was Salford, Man City, losing 8-0 in the end. So it was a comprehensive win for City, but a hat-trick for McAtee. I think he's a player who's probably not going to stay at the club, but I think this does wonders for City, selling him on for a pretty big price, doesn't it? I can see him at a big European team like Dortmund or something soon, can't you?
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? Because we've thought that over the years with Man City a lot. You thought there's players coming to the fore and they somehow don't get given the opportunity, and then obviously pave way for others. It wouldn't surprise you, to be honest. And I thought last season at Sheffield United, thought it was their best player, to be honest, the most promising. Really bright on the ball, really nice technique. I think it's everything you associate with a Man City team probably of the last 7 or 8 years. I think he's real good talent, and it'd be a good buy for a lot of teams in the Premier League now. I think there'd be a lot looking.
I think so, yeah.
Looking at him.
A couple of players with some big comeback goals as well. First goals in a while. Jack Grealish in this game, I think it's his first goal in over a year, first of all. But Calvin Phillips popping up on the score sheet for Ipswich against Bristol Rovers was a big surprise. But on a less jokey note for him, he's had a really tough couple of years, and his mental health and his confidence must be shot to pieces. So that'd be great for him.
Yeah, I think it's, like you say, it's just really difficult, and at times, really quite sad actually. I think some of the things he's had to go through, particularly a lot of the things you see on social media. Obviously, everything with Pep, labelling him overweight in public.
Yeah,
it all stemmed from that really, and really took a downward spiral. So I think that goal will do him the world of good, and in such I think in an environment that McKenna's built, and an atmosphere that's around Ipswich at the moment, I think you can only be enjoying that. Like you feel when you watch them. I think some of the character that team has, it's just you just want to be involved in it. And you can see why players want to go there. Obviously bringing Jadon Philogene in, who I think it'd be a really good addition to that Ipswich team.
A spark that they'll need as well. But yeah, for Phillips, hopefully a positive step for him, because he's under so much pressure, and I think his salary it's been reduced, but I think it's still so much higher than the average Ipswich pay. So he's kind of almost got to overcompensate. But to see him get some kind of start to his career or restart to his career is great. But FA Cup third round, rather, we've not really seen many of the games. There's so many, so apologies to any teams we might have missed. There's some heroics there, no doubt. But the fourth round draw, Dave, obviously Man United at home against Leicester City. The return of Rude already is a tasty first one, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it'll be a difficult game. I think he'll be well up for it. Particularly, obviously, the way he exited the club. Obviously, he's mentioned, how upset it made him. I think probably he anticipated they'd probably stay in. So I think he will be getting that squad well up for this game and be looking to prove a point, I feel. It won't be an easy game, and it'll be interesting to see how United approach it. I think particularly over these next few games now, when we've got the likes of Southampton, some of the not, I won't say easier games, but the games we're probably expected to win. That's where we've fallen short over the last couple of years. We've just not had any consistency, and I think carrying that mentality and momentum forward onto the next games and winning and beating the teams that we should be, I think that will be really fascinating to see if that is the case.
Yeah, flexing the squad as well, and I think he's rotated quite a few players since Amarim since he's been in, and there's a lot of them that have played terrible for him. There's quite a few actually that have changed my opinion of them as well. So yeah, positive for United. Good draw, tasty for us because we're from Leicestershire, so always a good battle when United play Leicester. But Miles will be disappointed that Villa didn't get Birmingham. That would have been a great tie in the fourth round, but instead they're at home against Tottenham, their bogey team lately. So yeah, an obstacle in the path for Villa getting deep in the FA Cup. Another tie I think I really looked like the look of was Brighton against Chelsea, because again, either of these teams could go deep in the competition too, really, couldn't they?
Yeah, I think Brighton are a team that you don't know what to expect of at times, do you? And I think they've shown a lot of promise. I think under Hertzler this season, you look at the team that they're building again. It feels like obviously their talent gets picked off, and they're in a position there where they've got to rebuild again. And I think they're all of a sudden looking like a real unit, and they've shown it in the big teams against the big teams this season. They've taken points off of us. They've taken points off of Arsenal. They're not going to be any an easy game for Chelsea, and it's not going to be a walkover.
No. Busy week ahead in the Premier League, Dave. Some, as you already alluded to, United playing against Southampton on Thursday, but games on Tuesday and Wednesday too. Some relentless fixtures in this month, isn't there? But we'll be there hopefully to react at least. If not, we'll see you for the pod next week. It's been great having you on this journey so far. So many of you have subscribed in the last few weeks alone from our content. That's really, really nice to see. So thank you. But if you don't already listen to us as well on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please hop over there. But the best place you could go is Blue Sky at the minute. We're quite active on there. So if you want to join in the conversation that we're having with other football fans, that'd be absolutely fantastic. We're on there as Football Diary podcast.com. So yeah, have a look for us there. Until next week, Dave, thank you, mate. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you soon.
See you soon, mate.